I'm actually interested in this other element that you've alluded to in I don't know, in writings, blogs, previous podcasts, of coaching the whole person. And
Mm.
it almost gets to like we're getting a little hippy dippy here. But you live in Bend and I live in Santa Cruz, so it's perfect.
No, man,
Um,
you're getting real. You're getting real. This
I'm
is
getting
this is
real. I'm getting
it's
real
not about
because
it's
I think it's
yeah.
interesting because Rebecca, you have a full-time job, right? You're in public policy or something, if I'm not
I
mistaken,
do
or
not
a
have a
part-time
full-time
job.
job. I was
Yep.
working pretty much full-time and I was working on a
Yep.
campaign in the summer and the fall, but now
Right.
I work part-time, but
Right.
um,
But you were doing that. You were working on a campaign
mhm.
during while being a professional athlete, and
Yeah.
Lauren is not just saying like you can't do this or not doing that. It's a nurturing element about an entire person. And so I'd love to hear you talk about that. And then Rebecca, maybe how it helps you as an athlete as well. Because I do
Mhm.
think that see this like really holistic formation of a person. And I wish I had that 20 years ago, as opposed to just go run 130 miles and don't
Yeah.
think about anything else.
I think
Totally.
that run 130 miles and don't think about anything else does work for 1 in 100,000 people. So, and a lot of them that you hear about, they're fast. You don't hear about the people that it works for who are just doing it, like just doing it. I love running. I run 130 miles a week. So anyway, it can kind of get over glorified. And I think that I certainly aspired at one point in my career to be able to be that person, because in my head it made sense. Put all your energy into this and imagine what you could accomplish if you stopped. I mean, people always called me distracted my entire career. And it was this thing, they'd be like, oh, imagine if you
Mm,
focused. Well, the couple of years that I did do that, I was miserable. I was miserable.
Right.
I actually ran fast. Um, I matched those times again later while not being a drone. But when I was a drone, when I would PR, it wasn't enjoyable. It always felt like as soon as I reached something, then the bar just went up again. There was no, I don't know, and maybe I just didn't give it enough shot for long enough. It was a few years though. I did it for a few years,
yeah.
and it just didn't feel like me. And I think that this idea of I used to say a happy Lauren is a fast Lauren. And I see, I certainly didn't invent that concept. Like I follow Jessie Diggins, and she's
Yeah,
got to be
she's
our most
awesome, right?
successful, skier. She just
Yeah.
kills it in Nordic skiing, and she lives and embodies that so beautifully. This like a happy me is going to race best, and
Mm,
what it takes to feel that trueness of like I'm being who I am, is different for every person. And so my first job as an athlete, as a coach of an athlete, is to learn what do they need in their life, to feel like they're being themselves, and then what's a pro athlete um, congruent or friendly way we can make sure those things are incorporated in your life, and then do them, and then always adjust, like be in conversation about it, like how did the full-time job as a campaign manager go, what were the pros and cons. I mean, we wouldn't try to do that in an Olympic year leading up to the trials, right? But it was a weird year last year. There was an election, but the Olympics got moved, and all the races were these random pop-ups in like
yeah.
high
Mhm.
schools, and
Yeah.
so if that's not a time that you can sort of lean in a little more to one of your other passions, I don't know when is, right?
Yeah.
Mhm.
It's
And
an
I don't know.
opportunity.
and it sounds like you
Totally.
end up building a little bit of like a support structure for when things are good and when things are bad. You
Mm,
don't if you've got other things that are happening around there, like, oh well, I had a terrible race, but I've got all these other things that are going really well. So
Mhm.
you can have like a little bit of a perspective that gets in there that I think helps you recover from those bad races, or make sure that you can celebrate the good races too. Like I don't think we do enough about that
We
celebration.
don't.
We have a
Mhm.
good
yeah.
race. It's like, hell yeah, that was awesome. That was great. I put so much work into this, and it's a tenth of a second faster than I've ever run in my life.
Mhm.
And it sounds so bizarre, but you have reflecting back on like there'll be a time when we'll no longer PR, and
Absolutely.
Yeah.
we can't look and see like the value of us as athletes as PRs. It's like there's part of the process, but there's also all these other things that go into that. Like, what did I learn about that? How did I celebrate that when it happened?
Mhm.
I don't think there's actually a question involved with that, but I'm just so thrilled to hear that perspective.
Yeah, it's
Uh,
cool. I'd love to hear Rebecca's perspective
yeah,
of like
that's
how
great.
it's
Totally.
affected her.
We, we,
Yeah.
we,
So Oh, so when I was considering moving to Bend, I went and visited in the summer of 2018. And one of my first questions to Lauren was like, okay, what else can I do while I'm here? Like, what can I do outside of practice? And she immediately had all these ideas when I talked to her that I was interested in public policy and potentially in politics. She actually introduced me to the woman who would become my boss for the next 2.5 years, Sally Russell. She's the mayor of Bend. And I jumped on her campaign as soon as I moved to Bend and figured out hours that made sense. And kind of the rest has been history working in kind of local Bend politics. And yeah, it's kind of a give or take, but like every time that I come upon a new job or a new situation, for instance, the offer of being a campaign manager last May, Lauren was the first person I asked about it. I was like, hey, what do you think of this? Is this a crazy idea? And, as she said, it never would have worked if it was actually going to be an Olympic year. But with everything canceled, it was kind of a great opportunity to, jump and do something else. And I do not believe that there are a whole lot of other professional coaches in this world that would have had that same reaction of like, you absolutely have to go for it. But I think that kind of, I don't know, harmony of passions that I'm allowed to express on this team has like made me more successful and also made me a happier athlete, that I am able to take advantage of other things. I mean, I'd say the same thing for several of my teammates who are interested in, coaching, mental health, physical therapy, like they have other jobs. And that's kind of the holistic picture of our Littlewing team that Lauren has been a huge part of creating is like, we want you to be happy. We want you to be able to pursue other things in balance with trying to become the best professional runner that you can be. And, I'm never going to be someone, and I have nothing against the people who can do it. It's awesome, but I'm never going to be someone who like can hang out on the couch and watch Netflix in between practices and like that be the way that I live my life. And like, it's been really important to me and my development that I've had a coach that is so supportive of the whole person and so supportive of like who I am outside of just being an athlete. So I know that sounds cheesy, but it was like literally like the second question I asked her when I visited.
Well, and just to kind of come back to like where I really came to have confidence in this approach is this myth that you have to only do running. There's a few things wrong with it, even though some people do get results and they do nothing but running. I really think those things are correlated rather than caused. And I think that I learned this through elite Kenyan distance runners, because the women, a lot of them had babies. And anyone who's had a baby knows you have a job. Like, it's exhausting. It affects your sleep. You're on your feet a lot more. It's the physical labor involved in a small child is a lot. And so even if that person doesn't, work in the jail, like some of the male Kenyan athletes I've heard of that do that on the side, or have something else that is more traditionally viewed as a job, they certainly have something else that demands energy and time in their life. And they were kicking my ass on a regular basis, running times that I could only dream of. And nobody talks about their kind of more holistic life stories. And I think as Western European and American media around sports loves this story of like the E10 training camp, and I just drink the tea and then I run the run, and then I, like we love it. But it's not really life. And even if, like, let's just pretend, even if all you did was run, sleep, and eat was going to make you the best athlete, was the best way, let's say you're a robot, and if you do XYZ, you will be the best runner that you can be. Like, you're also living a life that you only get once.
Right.
And these peak athletic years are also like peak life years. And so what is 10 seconds in the 5K worth? What is it worth? Is it worth ignoring everything else? I just don't believe it. I don't buy it. And near the end of my career, when I was negotiating, will I be with Nike again? Will I be with Oiselle? What am I going to do? I was at a point then where I was very confident, just being like, these are the things I'm interested in. I'm going to train my butt off. There's a chance it will make me 10 seconds slower in the 5K. And I'm okay with that. If you're not okay with that,
there we go.
Move along. It's fine. But like, I'm not going to like pretend, and what are we trying to do here anyway? We're trying to run as fast as we can as a human being without being miserable. And we're trying to like positively impact our community. And if you never leave your house, how are you supposed to positively impact your community?
Yeah, well, I think that's great, Lauren. We reflect back on all those races that you had and all the wonderful experiences. It's like, do you remember the misery of 600 meters to go? And think, oh man, I'm gonna grind this out and just like just throw down, or do you remember, you know, kind of the folks who were in the race and the community around it, and in the relationships that you had? And is like, I I can
Yeah,
guess
there's,
what your answer is, but
I mean, I certainly remember the searing pain of a 600-meter kick, don't get me wrong, and how good it felt when it paid off and it
yeah,
worked. But for sure, my fondest memories are in hotels and dorms and all the weird ass places they put athletes for races, and the
Right.
conversations that I had, and the, trying to find the best place for a cappuccino, and somebody discovers the €1 gelato, and whatever those things are, just like taking it all in. And
yeah,
so I think, I bet there's not a single person who's been a pro athlete alive who would give you a different answer, to be honest. That's those moments between races are where the living is, right? So
yeah,
being a pro runner to me was just like, became a way to live a particular kind of life.
yeah.
And then when I made the decision to like really fully live that life, it got a lot more fun.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
That's
yeah.
cool.
It sounds like the running piece of it was just a way to have a shared experience, and then and everything else around it was just like, let's talk about that experience. Let's talk about, like,
Exactly.
That's what JT and I raced against each other in college.
Yeah.
And
Josh was my hero, which is
it,
interesting because you were his hero. And so we have this, and
Hero
Rebecca
circle.
maybe, yeah, Rebecca.
Yeah, I am in the
JT
circle
is your
too
hero.
with Lauren, to be honest. Like I met her for the first time when I was at Stanford. I was a freshman and she was pregnant with her son Jude, and she came for a run with us. And I just remembered, like, I don't even know if I said anything to you. I was basically in awe the whole time, a freshman running in the back, and Lauren Fleshman was running with us. And I
The
just, yeah, I looked up to your career and who you were so much for so many years. I just, like, creeped online. And then I finally got the opportunity to
creeping.
meet her.
I love
But
it.
and then yeah, have her coach me and argue with her from time to time. And I
Yeah,
love it.
we can spar pretty well, I think, every now and then.
That's
Yeah,
great.
yeah,
happens. All part of the
Josh,
process.
Yep.
what I love about most of this is that oftentimes we talk about elites, and we have Rebecca Myra here, an elite athlete, and we have an elite coach. And you and I have far from been, that person in a very long time. But it always comes back to the people that are listening to it are like, it really should apply to everybody. Like, this is a very common ground. This is like John L. Parker, once a runner. You don't need to be like out there just by yourself hammering and trying to sleep 12 hours a day and not doing anything in between. It comes from this very organic, like, whole life. We talked about food earlier. We talked about like not keeping everything from yourself. Talked about like being happy. And finding a way to do that is going to be how you live this like full life, and how you run your fastest, and how you enjoy it the most at the same time. And I really believe that happens from like the junior high kids that Josh was talking about when he was coaching at Woodside, to like,
Hmm.
the masters runners that
Absolutely.
are
I mean,
out there
some of
still
the
hammering.
most extreme kind of unhappy people I have met in endurance sports have been serious recreational athletes.
Yeah, I hate life.
And there's the whole range in that spectrum. And people go through, they're on their journey, and they're having
Yeah.
the stage they're at for a reason. But to everyone, I say, with no judgment, but just there's something great on the other side, like
Yeah.
when you can feel like you're in alignment with yourself, no matter what you're doing. When you're doing sport, when you're at work, when you're with your friends, if you're the same person in all those places, I think that's where kind of the key to happiness really is. Um, that sounded really cheesy, but
No,
that's what I think.
yeah.
I love it.